Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of our Foreign Correspondents Talk Series 2024. My name is, of course, Alan Herrera, and I oversee AFPC's editorial operations. It is a wonderful honor for me, and I get to meet really cool and interesting people, particularly the journalists that we collaborate with and who appear, on this series. And this will be interesting and different. Today, I will be interviewing one of AFPC's scholarship awardees for 2024. And today here I have Nneka Chile, who is one of them. And she hails from Nigeria, and she will be presented with this award on December 4th at our Foreign Press Awards ceremony in Washington, D.C. So thank you, Nneka. It's great to have you here with me today.
It's an honor to be here and also like a really big, huge honor to be a recipient of this award. So thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. We are, of course, very proud of you and very happy to support you. Um, so to start off, could you just tell me and tell our audience, of course, a little bit more about yourself and your experience and perhaps how you came here to the United States?
Ooh. So I've been working in West Africa for 8 years as a multimedia journalist. I've been working in the breaking news and election scenes for a lot of years, like probably maybe 6 years. And basically my role in West Africa was just producing producing stories and working with stringers. I was the deputy lead producer at Reuters Nigeria. And my daily thing was always repurposing a lot of the content that our journalists literally use or our journalists produced and packaging them for the international audience. And I worked with a lot of stringers in West Africa as well, and also did a lot of shooting myself and writing, because as a multimedia journalist, you need to know all the skills. So I wrote, I filmed, I shot, and I edited myself. But then I also moved on to work at Twitter as a content strategist and also working in the disinformation space, which is almost like for the region as well, because at the time there was no presence of social media for any social media company who was really big on misinformation in the region. And so Twitter arrived Africa, and then I moved to Ghana because at the time, there was a ban of Twitter in Nigeria. So we were all moved to Ghana, but also serving the African market, but specifically Nigeria, which is almost like the biggest nation in Africa. And that has been my experience so far in the journalism space.
Oh, wow. I mean, just hearing all of this, it's very evident to me that you are a jack of all trades. It sounds like you've done it all. Could you then tell me, I guess I'm curious. Of course, you've done so much, but like what is it that brings you joy just in engaging in all of this work?
I think it's storytelling. At the heart of it all, I enjoy storytelling. Storytelling and the impact of storytelling. I've worked in the breaking news space for 3 years, strictly 3 years. And I started off as someone who just enjoyed storytelling. And I understood, oh, speed is important, accuracy is important, being non-biased is important. And those things have really governed my journalism career so far. And I'm always looking for places where storytelling is at the peak of like the center of the organization, media organization. And this is what I have done so far. But for me, at the same time, it's just I would say I'm a privileged journalist because I've been able to work with a lot of like media organizations who are non-partisan, who are really keen on accuracy and objectivity. But I cannot say the same for people in various continents, right? Or across Africa in general. But so far, that's really what led me to start studying what I'm studying now in the US, which is almost audience engagement centric. My program is really about digital innovation and production. At the same time, everything adjacent in the media industry, things that would help to build media sustainability. But so far for me, it's just learning things and trying to give back to my society. That's it for me. But so far, I enjoy storytelling at this granular level. Yeah.
I can certainly relate to that. I mean, I can share with you, as I've shared with other journalists who've appeared on this series and certainly on our podcast as well, that my first loves were actually fiction and poetry, you know, and still are, not to, not to hate on journalism for anybody who's listening, of course, but by this I mean that I ended up getting a break and I didn't realize that that I could use my talents, right, to engage in journalism and in storytelling until well, until I really had the opportunity. So I'm sure that there are, some wonderful people, of course, who've given you so many wonderful opportunities. And what is it that you've learned, along the way in seizing these opportunities?
I feel for me it's just understanding the audience, understanding who you're writing for, understanding who you're producing for, understanding the community you're working with. Um, I would say working in Nigeria is the best thing that has ever happened in my career, because if the Nigeria is very multi-ethnic, we have a lot of cultures, and working across the region has been really, so I didn't work with just one region, I worked across the region, and I just understood, oh, the differences in covering some certain regions might be different from covering certain regions, right? And just understanding and be able to communicate as a leader within the newsroom was really helpful for me and really helpful for my career in general. But what I've learned so far is we have a lot of challenges in the media industry. Um, we do not have a lack of talent in the media industry, but we have a lot of challenges around media sustainability, around press freedom. We have a lot of challenges around just the interference in the journalism, like just journalism space. And that is center for some regions, like in Africa, and it needs to be addressed. A lot of times politics is quite of intertwined with the media industry and is affecting objectivity. And it is not ending anytime soon. If you know what's happening in Africa, a lot of like military regimes are taking over. Democracy is really going down, and it's really affecting just the media space in general. And the digital era hasn't really peaked a lot in Africa, but this conversations needs to be had. So I'm hoping that maybe there should be some sort of like investment in the region as well, but also education on what to do to just really encourage media sustainability, because we are having these conversations in the US here. It is really big. A lot of people are like just doing membership subscriptions, really looking for alternative forms to increase their revenue. But these conversations are not had in Africa and in also almost all regions as well. So I'm learning the process. I'm learning to have the conversations with people, with leaders in the African media space, and hopefully opening their minds to more innovation and experimentation, and see how that conversation goes moving forward.
I really appreciate you sharing this because well, as somebody born and raised in the US, of course, and then when I entered this field, it gave me more chances, right, to understand. And again, I've traveled and everything, right? I've traveled a lot, but it gave me more opportunities to understand that there's more to the world than just the Western perspective, which dominates everything. And it's certainly, unfortunately, it does dominate conversations about Africa, conversations, about and within the global South in general. So, I guess, how do you feel that you can contribute to the landscape here within the United States, given all of your experience, especially, well, to be more specific, certainly your experience reporting on the continent, within the continent.
Given my experience, I would say what I'm learning now feels very different from what I've learned in Africa. It's a very big contrast, and I'm very glad I am, because every skill I'm learning is so new to me. I'm really learning around like making data-driven decisions, using data insights to inform your reporting and your production skills, using data so much as just making the right decisions, even as granular as data visualization, just telling a story in a different format, right? Other than the multimedia formats like video, photos, audio, just telling it in a different format, just making your story easy to understand. I'm learning that so well. And I am hoping that, and I say this in all pride, that Africa has the best storytellers. But I would say that the technology or the access to technology is not as great as we see in most regions. And I feel that that's where the gap is. So if that is really, really accessible to everyone, I feel like we'll be at the right track as we want to be. But for so far, we're good in storytelling. We have a lot of stories. There's so much, we're multicultural, so our stories come from different places. If you read an African story, you enjoy the fact that, oh, this is happening. Oh, I do not know about this. Oh, there is some sort of granular experimentation. There are groundbreaking things around climate, health. There's groundbreaking things around education that is happening, but we could tell it much more better. We can tell it in a way that is quite entertaining, like the way it is done here in the US, right? Rather than just writing a 10,000 word story, we can tell it in a short form that is also engaging as well. And I think those are the things we need to learn, and those are the things I'm learning, and I'm really grateful for it.
This is so fascinating to hear, and I mean, what's coming across to me, of course, is your commitment to bridging that, to bridging that gap. And certainly, that was these traits were, of course, evident, in your application, that you submitted to us. And it fills me with pride, and it fills me with joy, of course, to engage with you today and to gain a better understanding of all of the issues that are near and dear to you. And again, to anyone who is watching and listening to us right now, I hope that they take this to heart, because everything that you're saying will only supplement, their reporting. And I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, journalism is a collaborative effort. And what have you gained and learned in collaborating with your fellow African journalists? And what can perhaps your American cohort now, like what can they learn from that? Mm.
I would say collaboration started for me, and I would say this collaboration started for me in Africa when I worked with Twitter first, and I could see firsthand how we were able to diffuse a lot of misinformation that was going on in the space, especially around elections. It was so fascinating to see how you can really de-escalate a disinformation that could really harm the electoral integrity. Especially because I worked on the 2022 Kenya elections. And I could see firsthand how social media was used, right, to disseminate some disinformation that could really harm the integrity of the election. And at some point, it really did harm, because the election was set back for like a week because a lot of things were really heightened. The two candidates at the time were not agreeing, and it was not a conclusive election at the first time after the election, right? So really things like this can really hinder democracy, our democratic system, which is very fragile in Africa. And I could see firsthand how collaboration with just different teams, with engineering teams, with like election teams, with legal teams as well, like with project teams, just helping to de-escalate really the information dissemination within that space, really helps the system. So I'm learning this in a big way, right? But at the same time, as a journalist, I'm also learning collaboration in the newsroom, having communications, having people speak about what they're about to do before they do them. Talk about like your coverage processes, talk about like how can you get your information to people in a better form? How do you want people to read your information? What will be the headline like? How do your audience want to receive that information? What is really keen to your audience? All these things are really paramount, and all these things are only gotten from collaboration, right? In the newsroom, in the news space. And this is something I'm really learning. With my team here, my program so far is a team of my program, my cohort in school at NYU is a team of people who are experienced journalists. We have different experiences in our spaces, in our whole home countries. And those experiences have really shaped like our thinking as a general. Like we want to see change in our industries. We want to see change in our media spaces, our media landscape in our home countries. And so we're learning the skills in hopes that we can go back and give back to our society, right? We can go back and tell them, oh, this is possible. This is plausible, right? Objectivity is plausible, right? Media independence is plausible. And these are the things that we're striving for. And these are the things I'm really learning here.
You have such excellent insights, and I think that you are clearly an asset, to the American journalists with whom you are currently working. Um, I well, hearing all of this, you know, how do you feel now that you've received this award? What does this award mean to you? And how will it impact you moving forward?
I feel very lucky. I feel very good about the award. I feel like it's a recognition of like the good work that African journalists have been doing. We have a lot of, I feel like we've had successes in Africa that has not been appreciated so much, especially within the investigative space, the health space, the health journalism, just conflict, just reporting on conflict also. And I feel like this award will really help me further my skills, right? I want to also learn other things. As much as NYU has given me so much, they have really opened my mind to thinking about different things, just different things, adjacent roles, things that can really impact the media industry as a whole, not just one newsroom, but the media industry as a whole. Things around innovation, how to experiment with the little you have, and the even without more funding, even without less funding, you can experiment. Very granular things. I feel very blessed to be learning these skills. And I feel very blessed to also be a part of the community, the Foreign Press Club community. I look forward to meeting people and having conversations with them, having conversations about how to really engage with the African community, because we have a lot to give. We have a lot to contribute to the media landscape. A lot of things can also be learned from Africa. I feel like here in America, there are high level conversations around the journalism space or what the future of journalism is. But I feel like in countries or developing countries, there are so many achievements that we have really done that are really just basics. And I feel like we could learn from them as well. Yeah.
Well, one thing that is abundantly clear is that you have some excellent networking opportunities ahead of you,
Yeah.
especially, now that you have this award to light up your resume further. Uh,
Mm.
Nneka, I really appreciate everything that you have told me today, everything that you have shared with our audience. And I want to thank you for all of the wonderful work that you've done.
Thank
And
you.
I know for a fact, talking with you today, listening to your excellent insights, that you are an asset not just to, of course, the journalists who you are meeting and collaborating with here, but certainly everyone on the African continent. So thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me, Alan, and thank you for everyone watching. I'm really blessed and honored to be here.